Welcome to another episode of Five Star Conversations, where we talk to leaders in the hospitality industry. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Jason Nuell. Welcome, Jason.
Great to be here, Brendan. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Jason, what we'll do is I'll start off by reading your bio, which is very impressive. That'll give us some background, and then we'll get into the questions. So here we go.
Great.
Okay, so Jason Nuell is the Regional Vice President, Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific for Marriott International. He leads the region's portfolio of 46 hotels and resorts with more than 20 properties in the pipeline. Prior to his role, Jason was the Global Senior Vice President of Premium Brands at Marriott International, where he led Marriott Hotels, Sheraton Hotels and Resorts, Delta Hotels by Marriott, Renaissance Hotels, Le Méridien Hotels and Resorts, Western Hotels and Resorts, Autograph Collection Hotels, Tribute Portfolio Apartments by Marriott Bonvoy. And there, Jason was instrumental in the development of new brands such as Moxie and AC Hotels, which we now have here in Australia, as well as the global transformation of the Sheraton brand. With an impressive career in Marriott International spanning over 20 years, Jason also served as Area Vice President, USA Eastern Region, Select Brands, for the managed portfolio, which represents a significant portion of the company's sales and profits. Throughout his career, Jason has worked across 21 hotel brands and spearheaded a wide variety of complex brand and organizational-wide initiatives and strategies, including the post-Starwood merger revitalization of Element Hotels and Aloft Hotels. Through this experience, Jason has developed a deep passion for developing a wide range of guest experiences. A natural leader, Jason has played a key role in developing new operating standards, ensuring food and beverage excellence, and strengthening overall brand performance. Additionally, during his tenure at Marriott International, Jason also held the role of Vice President of Brand Operations, Design and Development, distinctive brands across the premium and select segment. Born in Sydney, Jason started out his Marriott career in the Queensland properties in food and beverage roles and GM roles before moving around the globe, taking up leadership positions in India, China and Europe, with a decade-long tenure at Marriott headquarters in Bethesda. After many years abroad, Jason now resides back in his home country of Australia with his wife and children. And so, as we said, Jason leads Marriott International ANZP in developing the company's people-first culture, and we'll talk about that, across their teams, the owner community and stakeholders. As Jason says, we want our people to be inspired by what's possible and discover their own future, and there's no better example of this than my own personal journey with Marriott. My career with Marriott over 20 years has seen me grow my skills and venture into new disciplines. I've moved around the world, learning and carving out a career path that has now led me back home to Australia. So welcome again, Jason. That's a very impressive bio, definitely. And the number of brands, obviously, that you were responsible for is almost the entire portfolio of Marriott, I think, isn't it?
It's a lot. It's a lot of the select, a lot of the premium for our brands, which makes a big part of our organization.
Yeah. Off camera, I said to you, my impetus for starting this was to, I suppose, show the younger generation of hoteliers that are coming through that hospitality, firstly, is a career. It's not something you just do when you're going to university as an accountant or whatever and then become an accountant. It's a career and it can take you all over the world. And your career path is an absolute testament from Sydney.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, very lucky. So, yes.
I think we'll find as we talk that there's probably a little bit more than luck involved. Most of my guests, what has happened is they've put their hand up for opportunities as they become available, and they've been willing to take opportunities that probably stretch them at that point in time, but they were willing to learn. And that's a common theme I found, definitely.
Yeah, I think where I was fortunate, I said yes a lot, as you rightly said. I always look for the challenge in a role or a role to select. I really didn't choose many of my career movements over money or title. It was all around what could I learn and what was the next challenge that I was up for. So I think that's a testament of sort of how I forged my career forward. To your point around when the door opens, you walk through it.
Yep, I love that. A question I always like to start with is, did you find hotels or did they find you? How did you get into the industry to start with?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think they found me. I wasn't necessarily looking. I was at high school. And some of us needed some extra cash towards their senior levels. So I started being a food runner in a restaurant in Brisbane. They wouldn't let me really serve anybody. They just let me run the food out. That's where I started and began my career. And I realized that I could impact customers and associates' experience while they're in the hotel. I was just blown away that I could change people's moods, whether that's the customer or the staff member that I was working with, about my behavior or what I was able to do. And it allowed me to a forum to be able to do that. What was also what I did at high school, because I was going down sort of the more graphic art path.
Okay.
And I did the work placement program, which now I look back and say, thank goodness I did it. And I realized I can't sit at a desk. I'm not going to be in an office. And I realized I needed to be in the people business. I needed to be in an environment where I could, and you talked about a bit in my career about creating experiences, creating brands, changing people's opportunities as an associate, or giving the guest a different sort of experience that they never thought they could have. And that's sort of what inspired me to stay in the industry. And even today, that's still what motivates me, right? I think we have 32 brands, as you mentioned. I've probably worked across 21 of them. That's what excites me about it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's, as you said, good that you did that placement and realized that, a desk job and sort of a traditional 9 to 5 was not going to work for you. So did that mean after high school you started working directly in hotels? What was your passion there? Did you think a lot of my guests have sort of said, you know what, I thought I wanted to be a chef, or?
I continued working casual right up until the high school. I went on and did my studies, but that basically kept me surviving during my studies, making sure I had some cash income, and stayed in the hotel industry, and really fell in love with it. And then started getting promoted. I'm like, this is a potential career. And then moved from a food runner to a bartender to a bar manager, and just moved my way up, making sure though that I did pretty much every position in the industry, so I could really learn as much as I can.
And did you go through sort of a trainee type process? At any point in time, did Marriott say, Jason, we'd love to put you through some sort of formal or informal process, or literally it was just a matter of?
Yeah. So obviously throughout my career path, yes, I then went back and did business studies and learned those sort of things. But obviously the great thing about Marriott's organisation, we have a great strength of training programs, development tools, and really putting through those was amazing. I'd worked in Australia for some companies for a long period of time, and then I had my first interview with Marriott. And all the general manager did at that point of the interview was talk to me about overseas opportunities. And I was like, okay, I've got to join this company. And from there on, it sort of has grown.
Interesting. So not even the role, it was looking ahead. You must have seen like a passion within you for travel or something.
I think it goes back to what I earlier said, is that I was looking for challenged experiences to make me a better leader. It's always been around, we're in the hotel business, we're in the people business. And how can I inspire, motivate, train, develop the future leaders was probably my biggest motivation.
Yeah, we are 100%. I don't think that will ever change, actually. It'll always be a people first business.
Yep.
That's my belief. Most of the guests I've had as well, although we might, and we'll talk about later, technology will have a role to play. It's a support role to help the team do what they do best.
Yeah, this is the hospitality business. This is what we do,
Yeah.
and inspiring that. But I think it's also for the guest and for our internal guests, our associates, right? We employ, in just ANZP area, over 7,500 associates.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people to inspire, motivate, provide experiences for them and their families as we grow as a company as well.
Definitely. Talking about inspiration, is there a particular person that you draw inspiration from, or what is it inspires you?
There's one in particular, but there's a couple of reasons for that. It's my father, who is 81 still today and working full time.
Wow.
So I'm not inspiring to make sure I'm still working at 81, but he's in the development business. And I think over the years of growing up and seeing him work, and he's very focused on the customer relations part of the business. And that's really inspired me to think about it. As I said, he still works today. and he's more than happy to give me feedback on his hotel experiences as he travels my hotels today to provide feedback. But just his thirst for learning, understanding the customer is really internal and external, has really motivated me to follow in his path.
Interesting. And do you think that's where your passion, for, as you said, being able to change someone's day through experience comes from? Is
I believe so. I think so, because I think he's still doing that today.
Yeah.
At his age.
Yeah, I have an uncle that's 82 and he only works 6 days a week now. He says if he was to give it up, then he loves it. He loves it. It loves, looking for.
Yeah. And I think, you're going back to the hospitality industry. We love this industry. When you work in this industry, you have to love it. Because you've got to get up motivated every day to inspire an associate or a guest. And our associates do that every day when our guests walk in the door. So I think that's the great thing about it. And you can change experience day to day. You can fix yesterday's problems, right? And a lot of the industries, it can take months or years to fix a problem. We can change it overnight if a guest has had a bad experience.
Yes.
So that's what I think is exciting about our industry as well.
Yep. On that note, what is probably the best piece of advice that you've received throughout your career?
It was probably you can't be good at everything and you have to be known what to be really good at. Don't try to be the master of everything is probably the simplicity of that.
Yeah.
I remember my first general manager job and I was in Thailand and we're about 3 months out from opening and one of my area bosses at that time said to me, okay, in 12 months time, what are they going to say about you and your hotel? And I said, I'm going to have a top performing across all metrics. And he's like, well, no, you won't. What are the 3 things you're going to be really known for? What is your hotel going to be? And it helped me really stay focused. Yeah. And I do that today, right? I talk to my teams. I review my to-do lists. What am I doing today that's going to drive impact? And I think it's about narrowing people's focus. It's really helping your teams focus. Yeah. But also it allows you to celebrate success more often than waiting for the complete balanced scorecard, so to speak. And the reality is you're not going to get everything fully successfully achieved without doing one at a time anyway. So that advice has stayed with me. It was true back then. And I was fortunate with that hotel. We were very specific about our needs and we ended up delivering those results. And I think at some point there's also that you need to realize what you're not going to focus on. Right, so you can stay very focused on the goal because we aspire to do more and sometimes that's a challenge because we won't deliver the results. So really staying narrowly focused on what you want to be known for personally as a career, but also a performance on a business point of view as well.
I love that. And I think it's more important, more so today, because we have so many things, asking for our attention. So if you've got a very clear focus and you know what not to say no to or what to say yes to.
Really and I think our jobs as leaders to help our teams with that as well, because it does get very challenging because everything is important.
Of course it is.
So it's about us helping us prioritize ourselves and catch ourselves when we're getting off the rails, so to speak, and really stay laser focused to achieve an outcome.
Yes, exactly. That is a great piece of advice. Jason, is there a trend within the industry that sort of either excites you or makes you anxious?
I think technology is a big piece, right, that we're all facing across. Everything's available to people at few clicks now on their mobile phones. Even with AI, things are becoming even faster and more summarized, right?
Yes.
And then we talked a little bit about we're in the people business, right? So you've got this technology play going on at the same time. So it excites me and makes us nervous to think about what do we look like in the future?
Yeah.
But we need to make sure things are still personalized, curated, because the online sources can give you a plethora of information, but they can't personalize and create it for you. So I do think that's where our industry is stepping up and really making sure we've got the local connections. The consumer is still looking for local and authentic recommendations, right? That some of the technology won't give. Technology will help us summarize the information, but you still want that local knowledge. Whether you stay at a W hotel here in Sydney, the W insider is that expert of the local area. So you want to talk to an expert that creates a local activity, itineraries for our guests. So I think, it excites me that the consumers are looking to speed up the process to information, but we're still seeing that they want a unique, one-of-a-kind offer and experiences, right? While technology can take care of the mundane work of finding that, they still want that personal experience. So they excite me because they're speeding up some of the processes, but I think it's more important that we dial up the personalization at our hotels as well.
Yes, I'd agree. So if we then were to sort of look forward maybe 10 years, what changes do you think we'll see within hotels?
Yeah, I think we realized we also through the pandemic, the thirst that people have for travel. As you mentioned, I was an area vice president in the US during the pandemic, and I was looking after New York as one of the areas. And I had owners calling saying the hotel industry is ruined forever. We have rebounded tenfold from a rates, from experience, from offering, but again, it's been driven by that thirst of people wanting to travel, right? If they can't travel to one country, they'll select another or they'll travel locally. And we all probably experienced that ourselves personally, that we needed to get out and travel. So making sure we're delivering unique experiences for them, as I referred to. I think thinking about our Gen Zs, we're doing a lot of work around the Gen Zs. When we think about in 10 years, 15 years time, they're going to be our biggest travelers for both work and leisure in our hotels.
Yep.
We do a lot of work behind the consumer, really understanding the consumer's needs, right? But they have a thirst for experiences, right? You see that, they want technology and they're native to the technology, but the experiences itself is what they're making decisions on. I think Bonvoy is a great example where we have our members selecting or utilizing the Bonvoy program about unique experiences, whether that's behind the scene F1 experiences or being part of the bidding on Beyonce's tour. We're able to give them access to that. So it's more than just the hotel stay. They want to maximize the travel dollar for unique experiences, as we know what they're thinking about in the future. The key destination for exploration has to be more than just accommodation. It's no longer just about the hotel stay. Was it the hotel experiencing? Is that reflective of the local programming in the area? So they're really, really important experiences for us to deliver for our consumers around authentic local experiences as we think about the Gen Zs for tomorrow. And I think it goes back to, we talk about the technology. It still needs to support personalization and experiences across all the guest journey, not just when you're in the hotel, right? Pre-arrival information, tailored marketing experiences, member experiences I talked about, and local dining or even local cultural partners that the hotels are partnering with. So you can see that trend in the future is around really making sure that the individual personalized experiences are delivered at the hotels.
So are we going to see, you think, traditional sort of Sheraton brands continue, or will we end up with more lifestyle brands?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think our focus is to making sure we've got brands and guest experience everywhere that people want to travel.
Yeah.
And we have so many different generations, right, that are looking for a Sheraton Grand, but are also looking for a W experience, right? A different generation, a different experience. And not even generation, it's just looking for a unique, different experience for that brand delivers. So I would like to tell you we'll be at 40 brands one day. I don't think, we're going forward, not backwards. But again, and going back to Citizen M, yes, that was one of the very early leaders in the select lifestyle space. That again, a lot of product isn't in that space today when you think about the select product with a lifestyle experience. So I think the answer really is that all our brands deliver an experience within themselves, wherever they may be in markets that people want to travel to and experience. So I think we are still seeing growth across the luxury tier, the premium tier, and the select tier.
That is interesting, yeah. And it's a matter of, like I always say, just offering guest choice. When it comes to the experience and even related to technology, I think it's best if we have technology in place that we give the guests the choice whether they choose to take up that option or not take up that option.
Yeah, look, going back to technology, and I think that's what has been great about it with our industry is allowing guests with choice. I always reference going to the airport. You can have your boarding pass on your phone. You
Yep.
can still print your boarding pass at a kiosk at the airport, or I can meet a guest agent. And I think consumers still want that choice. They don't want one or the other. Some people believe in self-service is the best service, but the others, they'll want to check themselves in. But if I want somebody to help me, there better be somewhere there to help me. So I think it's about providing all those. I just think the technology allows and increases choice more than anything else. And again, we go back to, we are still in hospitality business. So it still needs to happen, whether you're checking in online or whether you're engaging through the app with the hotel 2 weeks before you check in, right? It's not just about when you get to the hotel. You're engaging in the guest experience. Wait after the booking, and then you want to engage, or even prior to the booking, you can still connect with the hotel using technology. So that whole experience needs to happen, and ultimately giving the guests more choice. And I think our industry has to evolve in making sure we're giving those choices. It can't be one or the other. And we've seen that in research, that consumers want choice, but technology has allowed us to give them that choice, which is great.
And there does need to be a fallback. I mean, I checked in on a Qantas flight recently, and the bag I was using had some funny straps on it. The machine didn't like it at all. So, I had to have someone come along and say, no, if we turn the bag upside down, then it won't see the straps and it will go through. But it was not going to accept my bag.
Yeah. And I do think people, when they're staying across, that choice of brands and tiers, have a different level of expectation of
course.
When I'm staying in a luxury hotel, I wanted a very personalized experience, even to the point where I may use a butler with some of our hotels have. And then the premium experience, you are looking for that. I'll check myself in, or as you said, your luggage, but if there's something wrong or I need some advice, I want that expert, right? Whether it's the local expert about the local area, obviously in your case, the luggage expert, I'm not sure if that exists. That's what you're looking for. But and maybe in a select hotel, you're more aware that you may check yourself in, right? So I think, again, it just gives us more choices. It allows our industry to continue to grow as labour challenges are faced across the industry. So it helps us grow in that space. But in the end of the day, we're still the hospitality industry, and we better be providing hospitality, because that's why we got into the business in the first place.
But I also think that's why guests come and stay, because you could stay in a non-traditional hotel, but you don't see anyone, you don't get the experience. You are literally renting a bed. And I think that's what really differentiates us. When you're in a hotel, you know that there are people there that you can call, or there's security. I think that it's a level of choice.
I think the great thing about, what Marriott was very, very successful of 90 years is the brand standards, right? And you think about being consistent, you know what you're going to get, right? So I think you have to have that baseline, I think, is what you're referring to as well. When I think about non-hotel competitors, they've made us better. They challenge us to be better, to provide experience, because I think in some respects, they've been able to offer a slightly different experience. That's helped us evolve and realize the consumer of tomorrow wants change. So how do we be better? So, I'm excited about competitors, in all honesty, depending on what shape and size they are, because it makes you look at yourself and get better. And I think they have done that through our industry. We have apartments now, right, in our portfolio.
Yes.
Right. So, it's made us really think about, again, we're very consumer-centric focused, right? What does the consumer of tomorrow really want, and how do we make sure we're evolving with that? And again, that goes back to my first job, right? Like, that's what I loved about it, and I still love about it today.
Jason, I always like to ask, what is your hope for our industry?
I go back to my father again, and I remember when I started in this industry, and we talked about being the food runner and moving up. And early on in my career, he said to me, "When are you going to get a real job?" Right. Now, that's a very old perception of the hospitality industry. And I think that's what's changed. We have a specialist field. Like when I think about Marriott, we've got finance, marketing, law, architects, design, developments, engineering, guest services, sales. Like, think about how many choices there are to work in our industry. So I think it's about the growth of careers. Hospitality should be seen as a stable, rewarding career path, right? I'm an example of that. I worked my way up, and I lived abroad for 20 years, and now coming back into this role to lead it for back home, I'm pretty excited about it. But there, other people can do that if they work hard and take those opportunities. And needless to say, my father is happy with my decision now.
Very good. Yeah.
He has a different opinion of my career now.
Yeah, definitely. Particularly if he gets to stay in your hotels regularly.
But the problem is he still critiques them.
I don't think he'll ever change that. One last question I always like to ask is, what advice would you give somebody either looking at hospitality or just starting their career in hospitality?
I think I go back to look at my career, and I didn't pick the easy path, whether that's type of hotel, type of location, or job. You'd see the challenge as an opportunity. I think I said earlier, I would say yes a lot.
Yep.
If someone opened the door, I'd walk through it and then say, okay, what's this about? And I go back. I've always chosen the challenge over title and money in my career. And I think it's about a thirst of how I, as a leader, can be better. So my advice is really take every opportunity. Learn the things that people don't want to learn and master it, and you'll be needed.
I love that. Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brennan. Thanks for the opportunity to chat.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.